Hi, I'm Saloni. Welcome to the AV Club's Dialogues and Decibels event. And today I'm so excited to be talking to the talented team behind the movie We Buried the Dead. Welcome to Zach Hilditch, Mark Goldsmith, and Daisy Ridley.
Thanks for having us.
So I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say this is a zombie movie, obviously, but it's also a very sentimental zombie movie. So Zach, I wanted to start by asking you. I know that this movie came at a very pivotal time in your life, and you were going through a lot of things when you wrote it. Why did you pick the zombie genre to channel all of your emotions?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to make such a Debbie Downer of a movie, which was purely about like how you navigate grief. I was inspired to even the very first draft of this script after the death of my mother in 2017, but it was going through my childhood home and her house when she died, and going through all her personal belongings, and just that thing that felt weird about that, but also quite cathartic, and I felt like I got to know her a little bit better. And channeling my grief through that sort of was a very cathartic thing to do. To cut a long story short, like I wanted to explore that idea and that feeling of going through someone's house and what you would reveal and the secrets that lie there, but what was the actual story, and then the idea of a woman looking for her husband after a big cataclysmic event rocks Tasmania, and the zombies of it all just sort of snowballed from there. And I didn't want to make a kitchen sink drama about the loss of your mother, but I channeled all of that into a semi-zombie movie about an ordinary person dealing with an extraordinary situation, and that's how the character of Ava, played by Daisy, came into being. And then I was off to the races once all those cooking ingredients came together.
Awesome. And then for both of your characters are dealing with grief in a already very difficult time. And then you also share some very intense and maybe freaky scenes even. What was it like to work together to evoke that kind of visceral reaction? And what was it like to step into the shoes of your characters?
It's interesting because for it being called a zombie movie, one would imagine that the zombies are the scariest part. But what I found playing Ava is the shared experience that Ava and Riley have is some of the most frightening moments that Ava has. And a lot of that is because she understands what it is that Riley's going through. His grief feels desperate in a real way. And in some ways he's expressing himself in a way that she has not actually been able to, because she's on this journey and she's not yet at the moment where she can let that go. But that does develop into a very scary time where he stops making sense to her.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible meditation on grief and loss, this script, and I think that's what really surprised me the first time I read it, because I was so excited to be in a zombie movie, and then I read this, I was like, oh, this is not your run-of-the-mill zombie film, and it has so much more nuance, and it's so much more interested on examining what these characters are going through and how they navigate that loss, that grief, that guilt. So, when it came time to enter into the pressure cooker that is the third act with Riley and Daisy. Ava. I actually made that mistake on set. I think it was our last take, hey. I think that the story for both of them is so potent, and they mirror each other in a really powerful way. I can't give away too much. You're just gonna have to watch the movie.
Yeah. And I mean, doing something new with the zombie genre today feels like an impossible challenge, but you guys pulled it off. So I'm curious, when it comes to designing what the zombie would look like, the teeth chattering, for example, what was the process of figuring those aspects out?
Yeah, I just had a great team behind all this. This movie was made for a modest budget, but we were just lucky to get this amazing guy named Jason Baird, who's in prosthetics and SFX, and he had just come off an Academy Award nomination for Elvis. But he really loved the script. He was busy as all fuck, but he had just a small window to help us with the design, be on set for the first 2 weeks before he handballed it off to the rest of his team. And he just really helped give them that unique flavor. And again, I don't want to spoil too much. I'd love for you all to see the film tonight, 6 p.m. at the Zach. But yeah, like how do you cut through in the zombie canon? Like, what is your point of difference? And I think that we came up with a design element, even a sound design element, and then just a thematic element that overlapped with Ava's journey and Riley's journey and Clay's journey, played by Brenton Thwaites, who would love to be here, but unfortunately he couldn't make it.
Yeah. And then before we wrap, this is also a zombie movie that's set in Australia, and you guys filmed there too. What was that like, and why did you want to make sure to set it in Tasmania? That's kind of ruined by this military experiment. But what was it like for you guys to film that?
Yeah, I mean, a decade ago, I made a film in my hometown. I'm born and bred in Perth, Western Australia, called These Final Hours. And I haven't made another Australian movie since then. So this was my return home. And, we would have loved to have shot this movie in Tasmania for Tasmania, but it is a very hard place to get to because it is an island. That's why I wrote it, because it needed to be a remote place. But my own backyard down in Albany, 5 hours south of Perth, just offered the best backdrop to double as Tasmania. And it was just so great to make another movie in my hometown, in my home state. Such amazing crews. And Mark's from WA as well. And maybe they can talk a bit more about their experience.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'll just extend on from that. Tasmania is a really interesting place. It's an island off of the continent of Australia, so it's an island off an island, and it's just such an appropriate place for an end-of-the-world sort of apocalyptic setting. It's so isolated, and one of the incredible parts of this film is the soundtrack and the silence, that you are a part of the intimacy of being in a place where everything's just dead, and you can hear the breathing of our lead characters and what they're going through. You can almost hear their heartbeat on screen. Your performance is breathtaking. I think that isolation really handed itself well to this story. It's a beautiful place. It's a really rugged landscape, and so. And also, out of all of Australia, it's the one place where if everything had to die, it'd probably be that state. We'd choose Tassie, would you? I'm going to get in a lot of trouble from Tassie now. The sacrificial lamb that is Tasmania. No, Albany was incredible. It looks beautiful, and it's so, like, the cinematography is incredible. Yeah.
And we had a lot of our the people that made up the community we were in were Albany locals. We were really embraced in an amazing way by the community. Food's great, coffee's great. I was like big fan of Albany, but it felt really wonderful because we were in the town, really embraced by everyone there, and a lot of them got to take part in the movie.
That's cool. And I know our time is coming up, so very quickly, rapid fire. What's your favorite zombie movie of all time before we head out?
We Bury the Dead, written and directed by Zach Hilditch.
Good answer.
Seconded.
I got a third, but also the day I saw 28 Days Later just blew my mind, and there's a lot of DNA there, and it still holds up today. Like it's one of the greatest. It reset what a zombie movie was, and there's a lot of DNA from that in this.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Congratulations again. Have a great time at the premiere.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
See you tonight.